Hey girl, welcome to Overcoming Narcissistic Relationships with Olivia. I am so happy that you're here and listening to this right now because I have a bucket load of questions for you. The first one is, are you currently in or have you previously been in a toxic relationship before? Have you wasted valuable time and energy hoping that he would change? Do you keep attracting men that aren't good for you or falling for the wrong men? Have you been wondering if you're unhappy and deserve better than what you've been getting? Have you discovered that your partner or your ex-partner is a narcissist or has traits of a narcissist? Are you recovering from narcissistic abuse? Are you wondering how to overcome these relationships and break the cycle of going back to toxic love and toxic men? If you answered yes to any of these, then you are in the right place. This is a feel-good podcast for the woman on her journey to self-love, confidence, and worthiness. Each episode, I will bring to you an inspiring guest or an empowering thought that will help you bust through your fears, connect to your soul, and get clear so that you can elevate yourself in your life and your relationships. Get ready for some real talk and to unapologetically take charge and reclaim the life and relationships that you really want. My name is Olivia, and I'm a relationship and narcissist recovery coach. Bringing women together to create positive change within themselves and others is what I do. Are you with me? Here we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast. Today, I have got Mary Miranda, and she's a dating and relationship coach. She's also a beautiful Latina lady, and we connected over Instagram. So, hi, Mary. Thanks for joining us.
Hi. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here. So, I'll just let everyone know how we kind of connected online. So, Mary actually reached out to me after listening to my podcast, and she was like, guess what? I have dated 3 high-profile figures who I consider to be narcissistic men. And so we kind of got chatting a bit about it. And then we kind of related a little bit on like our spirituality and then also fitness and all these bits and pieces. But I predominantly wanted to have Mary on because I was like really fascinated with how, I guess, dating a famous or high profile or high powered sort of narcissistic man would look like. And then Mary shared with me some of her insights and her story. So I thought, let's hop on the podcast and share it with all my listeners. I'd love you all to hear it. So Mary, take it away. Tell us a bit about the difference between dating, I guess, a high profile narcissist.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So yes, I actually have over a decade of dating disasters. And the last relationships that I had were with public figures. And the last one, my very last toxic one, was with a high profile public figure where I live. And honestly, I didn't get into the relationship thinking that he was popular, that he was successful. Like, we just kind of fell into it. Like, I was not attracted to him at all. I had dated a person he knew, and he reached out to me. We started talking. We became really good friends. And he told me that my ex that I was dating was cheating on me with a friend of his. So he kind of was like my shoulder to cry on. He built that trust with me. So I started trusting him. I saw him as a friend. He was my confidence in a way. And then little by little, he started like kind of love bombing me. Until one day he told me he liked me, and I was like, wait, what? I'm like, how did that happen? I did not see that happening. So in that time when we were friends, I got to know the person, the human side of him, like his story, his childhood, his past relationships. And I kind of felt like he was very like victimized, right? And this is before I even knew about toxic relationships. I was just like, oh my God, poor guy. He just hasn't found the right woman for him. Oh my God. Like, he had it really bad and with his career and everything. So I didn't even care about the career. But me, always being a driven, ambitious, and independent woman, wanted someone with a career. I wanted someone with success, or at least with a nice job, right? Because I'm like, that looks really good. And not even because it looks good as far as a society, but it's something that I wanted because I worked really hard to get my degree in college. I came here. I had a really good career. I was like really, really goal oriented and driven. So it was really nice to find someone with kind of like the similar path than me. But, you know, he was charming. He was nice. He was caring. His romantic game was on like crazy. He would bring me serenades with mariachis. He would buy me flowers. He would take me to concerts. It was like the fairy tale, the Prince charming, and I fell into it, right? He would plan dates. It was just this kind of flowy way that it happened. But then I started seeing things that were not adding up. There were inconsistencies. Things were just weird where he had our roommates and the roommates were never there. And one date I was there and he literally jumped out of bed and he freaked out. He's like, oh, my roommates are home and they don't know you're here. And I'm like, wait, what's the problem? Like, it was just like so many things that happened. You know, the truth always comes out. So things started coming up that it was one woman he was in a relationship with. He was living with her, yet he was still married and I didn't know this. So I didn't know this. I didn't know any hidden things. And the more things were coming up, I was already in love with this guy. So it was really hard for me because I didn't know about narcissism. I didn't know about codependency. I just didn't know anything. I'm like, well, he loves me. He's telling me he loves me. And, you know, I kind of just fell into that trap with him. You know, he was attractive. He was good looking. He seemed so genuine. Every time I would find something out, he would kind of gaslight me and tell me, no, that's not what you saw. You didn't see it right. You didn't see it correctly. So progressively, I started losing trust in my intuition. If something felt off, like I would go straight to my mind and I would be like, no, that's not true. Maybe I didn't see it right. And I started questioning myself a lot. So it was a lot of introspection that was going on with me. And I didn't know the sense of reality anymore. And every time, for example, since he's a high profile figure, he would always be in clubs. Around the time that we met, he was always in the club scene, promoting alcohol, promoting like events, all of that. So he would get so many women. And every time I would find something, you know, I would find random pictures with so many women and I didn't care. But the ones that would spark some mistrust in me were comments that he would make or things that I'm like, that's so disrespectful. Why would he say that? He's dating me. And he never posted anything about me. So I was kind of hidden. And so for me, every time I would find something, I would question him and he would be like, oh no, you're just jealous. You're just insecure. You don't understand my line of work. So many women come to me and I'm like, yeah, but that comment, that made it seem like you're cheating on me or made it seem like you spend the night with her. And he would just like create these stories and scenarios that I would just end up believing him. But when I would be alone, I would be like, no, that doesn't add up. But, you know, it was like a internal turmoil that I was living all this time. And all this time, I'm like, no, but I'm going to be the woman that is going to show him differently. I'm going to be the woman that he's going to publicly display. I'm going to be this woman. I wanted to be the fixer. I wanted to be the woman that was going to the heart. But, you know, it didn't turn out that way. And I walked away from multiple infidelities because it was just so easy. And even having the evidence, like he would still deny it. And I left with a sense of like, I don't know what's true anymore. I don't know who to trust anymore. I don't know what to believe anymore. Did I see that right? You know? So that was basically like that relationship. So I left and then I started rebuilding my life. I started getting to know myself all over again because I had no idea who I was. And it's just been a beautiful journey that keeps unfolding and unfolding and unfolding. But I feel that I was meant to go through that relationship to wake up and to open my eyes and to see the patterns and to see that I needed to heal subconsciously and I needed to stop attracting those men. And a year after I left, that's when I found out it was narcissistic abuse. There was a lot of financial abuse, spiritual abuse. There was a lot of infidelity, gaslighting, all the stages of narcissistic abuse. I was just like numb for like a week when I found out about narcissistic abuse, codependence. And I just couldn't believe that everything, I'm like, I created a relationship in my head that never existed. I'm like, I don't know who I was with. Like, it was just that mind blown. And from there, it's just been, honestly, it's been great right now. I'm loving my life. But yeah, I think I needed that relationship to wake myself up.
Wow. Thank you for sharing all of that. That's amazing. And I think you mentioned as well is that like after going through 3 of those relationships with like high profile people, fame or whatever, you've actually married the love of your life now.
Yes, I'm actually married to my twin flame. He is the love of my life, and he's just the complete opposite of anyone I would have ever dated.
Oh,
And, with those toxic men, more than anything, you attract your wounding, you attract your subconscious. So there was always spark, the adrenaline, the nervousness, the anxiety for the days. And all those feelings with my husband, I didn't get any butterflies. I was like, initially, the sparks were not there whatsoever. And everything was just relaxation. Everything was calm and everything was so different. Yet we knew each other because we're twin flames. So our souls knew each other. And it's been the most elevated and the most healing relationship I've ever been in. It's also the healthiest relationship I've been in. And it's just been a lot of working, healing together, doing shadow work together. I understand where he comes from. I understand he has an inner child that also has some types of wounds, and we work together. And every time we get, let's say something happens, or I'm experiencing distress or I'm sad, he's always like, how can I support you better? And, with the past relationships with a toxic man, they would have been like, oh, you're just too sensitive. Oh, you're just PMSing. Or they would just dismiss my feelings, right? And this person completely cares about what I'm going through and my feelings. So it's just such a difference, honestly.
I love that, because I was actually going to ask you. I was just listening to that, and just being in the relationship realm and coaching and stuff, I've always heard the term twin flame, and I'm like, okay, so how do you know you've met your twin flame? It's different to soulmate from what I understand. And you said it's a meeting of the souls, or a familiarity of the souls. So can you explain a bit more about that so my listeners kind of get an idea of what you mean by using that sort of language?
Yeah. So for twin flames, honestly, and then I was asked this before in a few different interviews that I've done, and everyone is going to have their own definition of what a twin flame is. Right? So for me, it was my mirror soul. It's kind of like your soul was split in half. And so he's like my little twin soul, pretty much. That's what it is. And we did go through the stages in the twin flame relationship, and we actually went through those. But what helped us both was that we're both highly awakened, very conscious. We're both very woo-woo spiritual. So that really helped us navigate through, because we separated. And when we reunited, it was just this very divinely aligned reunion where it was effortless. And that's when we knew we were meant to be. And when a lot of women come to me and they're like, oh, how do I attract that twin flame? How do I attract a soulmate? And I always say, you need to attract the right partner for you, whether it's a soulmate or a twin flame. It's like you don't put that conditioning, because once you start manifesting and you're like, oh, I want a twin flame, a lot of times that's not what you need for your soul evolution.
Ooh,
and
I like that.
Yeah. So him and I came together, and now he's a healer too. He's also very intuitive, and he also wants to get more into spiritual guidance, helping people. So we know that coming together, we are meant to heal the world. I can think about it that way, right? Because by us healing each other, healing us individually and together as a couple, we also want to help other people heal. So it's healing the collective. And we feel like it's our sole purpose to be healers. It just depends on what you believe about twin flames. Everyone has different definitions. A lot of people say they're so chaotic, they're so this. And a lot of times it's a karmic relationship, which is what a toxic, narcissistic, abusive relationship would be. And twin flames, they don't have to be chaotic. It just depends on your level of spiritual awakening and your level of consciousness. That's the only difference that I think. But you are always going to attract what you need for your soul evolution.
I love that. So something that was interesting, like I just had a memory pop up when you were talking about that. And I remember, I think it was like a year or two ago, probably longer actually, I had a reading done by a medium, I think it was. I can't remember her title exactly. But she was like, in a past life, you never left your toxic relationship.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, because I didn't even really know much about past lives back then. So I was kind of like, that's a bit, a bit woo-woo, a bit out there, a bit different. And she's like, you guys actually are soulmates, but For me, I always thought you only ever had one soulmate, but I've kind of learned over the last couple of years you can actually have multiple soulmates and they come into your life to soul lessons. And so when I started to learn that, I was like, oh, I had a huge epiphany. I was like, oh, thank goodness, because I thought if he's my soulmate, then we should still be together, and we're not, thank God. But yeah, it was fascinating to hear that there's multiple soulmates out there. There's a thing called a twin flame. Like, it's really interesting when you start delving into more of the spiritual world and what things mean. But what you mentioned that I really liked was you said the difference between, your narcissistic relationship with these toxic men and then, this partner of yours now. You said instead of them blaming you or labeling you when you brought up concerns and feelings and thoughts and stuff that you wanted to work through together, instead of that, this new person that is, the new guy with the healing relationship is he actually said, what can I do to support you better? Which is a huge differentiation between managing and showing up for your partner.
Totally is. And honestly, I remember one day something happened with my ex's cousin that she created this rumor about me. So I immediately called him and I started crying, and he broke up with me because I was crying. I felt so dismissed. I felt so invalidated. I felt so alone, and I'm like, wait, what? That was not the normal reaction. Like, I couldn't even understand. And this is before I knew what toxic narcissism was or anything about that. But for me, it's like, that doesn't click. Who reacts like that? I'm like, how can someone leave me because of that? Like, he should be defending me. He should be on my side. And coming to healthier relationships, you feel more seen. You feel heard. You feel understood. You feel validated, acknowledged. They care about your feelings. Narcissist men don't care. They're not empathetic. They don't empathize with you. They don't care about your feelings. If you're crying, you're too emotional, you're too needy, you're too clingy, right? Because they're avoidant themselves. And they're not emotionally available themselves, so they can't be like that for other people. And when you start attracting healthier partners, and especially the men that I married, they're so kind and loving to themselves and emotionally available, so they can also give you that in a relationship. And I've never felt more seen, more understood, more loved, more just like care and supported. Even if, let's say, one day I wake up angry, he'll be so understanding about it. And he'll be like, do you need self-care today? And then I'll be like, yes, I do. So instead of him like getting mad and reacting to that, he's always like, I think you need self-care, or did you meditate, or did you do this? Because he knows I do my rituals and stuff like that. So I was like, oh my God, who does that? I'm obviously a healthier partner, right? Someone that wants the best for you, because they know if you are well in body, mind, and soul, if you are loved, then you're going to be a better partner for them. So it kind of works really amazing.
I guess the point of difference as well is like this new partner, the healthier guy, he's actually thinking about you and being like, have you done your rituals? Have you, looked after yourself in this way? Whereas like toxic men and narcissistic dysfunctional men are kind of like, the intention isn't necessarily good or pure. It's kind of like, oh, why are you making this a problem? Oh, this is difficult for me, when you're the one that's upset. Once again comes back to them. Whereas when you're with a healthier, more functional partner, they see you for who you are, and they treat you like an actual human, because they do have empathy. They realize that you need to be your best self. That helps the relationship even more. So they don't blame you for having emotions and don't break up with you just because you cry. Like, you're a human.
Yes. And the beautiful thing is that you want to be with someone that if you have rituals or hobbies that you love, that you are going to continue being your own person in that relationship. So my husband knows that my priorities are my self-care, my self-love, taking care of me, the gym, not because he isn't a priority, but I go first, and he knows this. This is something that I embody and then I teach to my clients, right? And he knows that the gym, moving my body, fitness, eating healthy are important to me because they are my foundations, as well as self-care and self-love. And I think this is where we started talking to also on Instagram, that you started posting your fitness videos. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so into fitness. And I think I mentioned something that when I was with my ex, I was training for a bodybuilding, a fitness competition. And he sabotaged every self-care thing I tried to do for myself. Anything healthy I tried to do to be better and improve myself, he would sabotage it. Like he would always be like, why you gotta be drinking so much water? And the thing is that he met me when I didn't work out, when I didn't eat healthy. And when I walked away for 6 months and I came back, I was into fitness. I had a six pack. I had lost 25 pounds. I started reading self-help books. I started understanding more about taking care of me. So I started changing. The change wasn't enough for me to leave the relationship for good because I went back. But he tried sabotaging everything. Like me going to the gym early, he would get so mad. If he saw me drinking water, he would be so mean about it. Like with an attitude, being passive aggressive. Why you gotta drink so much water? And if we would go to a restaurant and I would be like, oh, I'll be back. I'm going to the bathroom. I would come back and find a beer waiting for me when I didn't order a beer, because he knew I didn't want to be drinking anymore. And he would order pizza and he would just like completely sabotage everything I tried to do. All the books that I was reading, he would be like, I don't understand why you read so much and nothing sticks in that head of yours. Or he would be like, you don't know how to be social, or you don't know how to do this. And everything I tried to improve myself, like he would just like be not cool about it. He would hate it. He would tell me that I look like a man now with muscles. He would laugh that I didn't have a booty anymore. I was like, no, because it was all fat. My booty back then, it was from all the junk food. And now coming to this marriage, this healthy relationship, he knows that if I'm good and if I fill my cup and if I'm happy and if I love myself and if I do my rituals, I am at my optimal and I'm going to be a better partner for him and I'm going to be just better overall. And it's going to be a very healthy and happy marriage. So it's like a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, you know, you're a coach as well. So you're a business owner. And so if you're not looking after yourself, you're not walking the talk. And so you can't really be authentic when you're coaching other people. Do you know what I mean? Because you are the life force behind being a dating and relationship coach. So if your energy is not good, you're not filling up your cup, you can't energetically give your best self to other people to help them in the best way either. And so it has like a real circular looping sort of energetic exchange. Do you know what I mean? And it just reminded me, like, I've actually got a client at the moment, and I won't name names obviously because of privacy and confidentiality, but she's a life coaching student, and in like we've done a lot of visualization work and goal setting, and for her future she can really see herself stepping into being a coach. But her husband, who is on the narcissistic side of the scale, keeps criticizing everything she does. So every time that she goes to like a seminar or a conference or some sort of like learning or hanging out with her coaching friends, it's always met with criticism and resistance, and it's really holding her back. And it just reminded me of what you were talking about, where your ex-partner would like basically try and sabotage you because of their jealousy and their insecurity and all this sort of stuff, because in some way, on some level, they don't want to feel like you're better than them. And it's really just the wrong mindset to even have, when you shouldn't be in competition with your partner. You should be collaborating, you know, working as a team. It's not you against him and him against you. It should be the two of you taking on the world together, you know?
Yeah, I definitely agree. And the thing is that with him, obviously, he was a public figure. So he was always the center of the attention. He was always the TV, radio personality. He was always the ladies' man, right? So he got all the attention, but deep inside, and this is in general for a lot of toxic men or those that have very toxic masculinity energy, they're very insecure. They don't love themselves. They will never do the work to heal, right? Because they don't have the empathy and they don't have the emotional capacity, I even think, to start loving themselves. And they're very insecure. That's what I'm getting at. And with him, he struggled with his weight for such a long time. And when he used to put me down, now I understand that it's because he was so insecure about his own body that he wanted to keep me at his level of insecurity. And I didn't know that back then. I was just, and one day I got so mad. This is when I started having my voice back and standing up for myself in the relationship. And I was like, it's not my fault. You have been trying to lose weight and you haven't done anything about it. And I got so mad. So from there, he blasted me on social media saying that I called them fat, which I would never do that. But it was just this kind of thing that made me realize, I'm like, oh my God, now it's like I have love and compassion toward him because he is not a happy person. He is so insecure. He still hasn't done the work to heal. And now that once you heal and once you become different and once you start loving yourself, like as far as people who leave the relationship, you tend to see them and you're like, oh my God, they're suffering. They have so much that they don't even know. They have so many subconscious trauma. Probably they haven't healed their inner child, and you start seeing them differently. And I think this is when healing becomes so much easier because you're able to forgive faster, because you are more compassionate with yourself and you're able to say, I forgive myself for going back, for allowing so much, but I didn't know better. And I'm able to forgive the person. And I think that's one other thing that how my journey started changing, because when you understand so much about narcissism, narcissistic abuse and all of that, why they do things, you end up feeling bad about them in a way.
Yeah, you do. I think so.
Yeah.
I think self-awareness and education about this topic is like the huge game changer, to be honest with you, because I think once you learn through different stages of healing and recovery, as I'm sure you've gone through, Mary, it's like you become more objective and are less emotionally invested because you've done some healing. And so when you can look at things from more of like an educational, scientific, psychological sort of perspective and lens, it all kind of adds up and makes sense. And so you go, instead of feeling sorry for them, you empathize because you go, they literally don't know any better. They have all this inner child work that they don't even know how to, begin looking at and working through. And it's sad because if they don't start looking internally and doing some internal work, they're going to keep playing out the same patterns and damaging other people along their life path, And so that's the real sad thing, I think, is like, I feel like we're the lucky ones in a lot of ways because we are the ones that, we went through some really, really, really shitty times and soul-destroying experiences for sure. But we're lucky because we're fortunate, it was only for a period of our life. Like we can sit here and talk about this now. But for those other guys or the narcissistic, toxic masculinity men, if they're not even willing to realize that maybe they're a little bit flawed and maybe they've got a few weaknesses and maybe they've got something to work on and maybe they're the common denominator, they just are going to live their life out doing the same old. And what a waste, like the quality of life is so deeply affected. And that's what I feel bad about for them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would never have felt that way a few years ago, guys. So the women that are listening to this, don't think that I'm trying to get you all to feel sorry for them. That's not really what I'm here to do. I'm kind of here to show you that your perspective will change, even though you might hate it right now or you feel really resentful and bitter and all this sort of stuff. Like eventually there'll come a point, once you do some work, you'll actually see things a little bit differently, which is reassuring.
Yes. And it's not saying like, oh, poor little them, victim, feel sorry for them. It's not coming from this pitiful state. It's coming from an understanding that they are traumatized too, that they also probably experienced childhoods where they were not given the best example of what love is, romance. Maybe they saw their dads hitting their moms or infidelities. You don't know what they go through. So I'm not saying, oh yeah, you need to feel sorry for them. No, it comes in time. It really does. Like you said, it comes in time. We're not saying that you need to be sorry for them. Like you will get to that point when you are ready, right? Because a lot of women are not ready to do that. They're not ready to forgive them. And it's okay. The most important thing is that you learn to forgive yourself. Yeah. To know that, you went through something that you didn't know then, but now you know better. And now you can take your power back and just say, I forgive myself because that empowers me. And this is not going to happen again, and do the work, right? And start doing things to help you heal. And maybe one day you'll look back and be like, I needed that experience. Like I am able to say that, right? But I was not able to say this like in 2015, right? So it came with time. And it's just a beautiful journey of healing and evolving and always becoming better.
Yeah, it definitely does. That's for sure. And while we're on the topic of forgiveness, I'm really excited to kind of announce that. So I'm coming up to the 1 year mark of officially forgiving my narc. So last year, and I only just really realized this week actually. So like I've been single for 3 years now, did a lot of 2 years of the legal crap that I went through. And then, a year after that was when I could actually breathe out. So it's been more like a year and a half now since fully cut contact with everything. And I wasn't wanting to forgive him because I thought he was getting away with it and letting him off the hook. I didn't really realize a lot about forgiveness and letting myself off the hook by forgiving him. and all this sort of stuff and releasing negativity and all that. And it wasn't until I went to the Tony Robbins Unleash the Power Within convention last year that this came up in the 4 days of like full immersion with like, I think it was like 10 to 20,000 other people in this massive stadium. And he took us through this exercise and like the lights were low and the music was like, you know, everything was just amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And we did like a blessing, releasing, forgiving activity. And it was just like, I can't explain it. I feel like I had to make the conscious decision then that I wasn't going to keep holding on to it. And then ever since I've let that go, I've just felt like a huge energetic shift. And then the fact that next month when I go back again for the second time, I'm going to be in the same stadium looking around going, wow, my life is so different now. And I've actually forgiven him and I feel really, really good. But, you know, it takes a while to get to that point of being ready to forgive someone that's mistreated you.
Oh, yes, it totally does. And for me, it's also an energetic release from your body, because if you don't forgive, you also keeping all those emotions suppressed in your body, which can lead to health issues and other things, right? Especially in your womb area. So when you don't forgive and you keep all the anger, the resentment, that pain, that hurts, it's just making your health deteriorate in a way, especially if you have digestive issues. Like for me, I ended up, from everything that I went through in my relationships, I ended up with a tumor in my uterus, a fibroid that was 9 centimeters. And I ended up with endometriosis that I have right now. And I also ended up with a cyst, and I only have one ovary. So I had surgery last year, and I do know that it's linked. I'm not saying it's because of that, but I do know that when you experience a lot of emotional stress, a lot of trauma, a lot of suppressing your emotions, a lot of not healing and working through it, everything stays in your body, and it can be manifested as health issues. So when you forgive, you don't do it because you're condoning what they did or you're letting them off the hook. No, it's for your health. Like now that I know how much it affects your health when you don't heal your trauma and process your emotions, I am able to do it faster because I understand that it's for me. It's an act of self-love toward me. When you forgive and release and cry, it's just so healthy, releasing all that stagnant energy. And I use the Ho'oponopono. So for forgiveness, so I wrote down, I remember when I did the forgiveness, I wrote down everything that I was forgiving myself for. And it's like forgiving myself for going back, forgiving myself for being gaslighted, forgiving myself for going back to him, knowing how many times he had cheated on me, forgiving myself for the humiliation, forgiving myself for everything, and even things that I didn't do. But for me, it was releasing that from my body. It was telling my body, I'm sorry, I have caused all this harm to you, all this stress, all this emotion. And I was crying when I was doing this. And I was listening. I actually went to Tony Robbins. So I was listening to the Debbie prayer. I believe that's the way it's called, Debbie prayer.
Yes, I love that one.
I love that. Yes. And I was listening to it and I was doing that and I was like, oh my God. And it was just like so healing, like to do that, honestly. And forgiveness is for you. It's not for the other person. Yeah. You one day will be ready and will come to a place when you're like, I think I'm ready to forgive them. But it comes in time. It's not going to come right away. And a lot of people that say, I forgive you, do you really mean it? Like in body, mind, and soul. Like, do you really mean the forgiveness? Because for me, I told them once, I forgive you, but I was lying because inside of me, I wanted to kill him, right? I was so angry at him. And I was like, that was not genuine. I'm like, when I'm ready to do it, it would be genuine. And I was able to tell him that one day when I was ready. I'm like, thank you for everything you did to me. Because of you, I am a better person. Because of you, I love myself. And because of you, I now have this business where I help women heal from what I went through with you. And because of you, I am married to the love of my life. And he probably didn't like that. But, you know, it comes with a lot of self-mastery and just like doing the work when you come to that place where you're able to forgive.
Yeah, and it's not just because of him too. It's because of you, Miranda, because you're the one that actually thought, I need to release this and I don't need to hang on to this anymore. It's not serving me. I need to let it go. So you did all that because of you as well. Like you made that decision. And so, like, I want the women that are listening to this to think you don't have to go to Tony Robbins to heal and forgive. So
no,
a lot of the techniques that he used, I'm sure you do too, Mary, we actually use as coaches. It's called NLP. So
Yes.
neuro-linguistic programming. And it's incredibly powerful. And there's a lot of, like, if you do a bit of research on Google, it says it's like a pseudoscience, but it's actually been like a lot of counselors and therapists and psychiatrists actually go on and become certified NLP practitioners so that they can do this sort of work on a really deep, impactful level. So yeah, it's pretty incredible. So I don't want you to think you've got to go to some sort of convention to forgive your ex. You really don't. But there is like a process you need to go through, because I know it sounds all very flimsy and easy and like, oh yeah, I'll just forgive him. Like, it's not really that simple. Don't you agree, Mary? You've kind of got to like go through a few steps for that to happen. Like, yes, there's a conscious choice where you're like, okay, I can't hang on to this any longer. I've got to decide to do something with it. But it's not like you just go, yep, I forgive him, and you flick a switch. It's like you've actually got to really feel it.
I agree. And it takes a lot of radical honesty and responsibility and take ownership of your side of the street. That's the way I call it. And also realize that we also, like for me, for example, I'm not generalizing, I'm just saying, because a lot of women can get triggered, right?
Yeah.
But for me, it's like I need to be honest and take responsibility that I also came with toxic behaviors of mine that were attracted to this partner that I had, or that kept me being in those toxic relationships. So I also had to take ownership that I needed to also do healing, and that I also had patterns in me that kept me attracting and being attracted to this toxic man. And from there, it's more like empowering yourself when you're ready to say, I forgive myself for not knowing better. I forgive myself because I also have these toxic patterns. And I also have all these things that I need to work on. And I didn't know, I was not aware of it. And it takes a lot of guts to do that. It takes a lot of guts because it's so much easier to say, oh, he did this, oh, he did that, and blame it and put all the blame on him. And yeah, a lot of times these narcissistic men do things to women that are just unforgivable. They are. I'm not saying they're not, especially when it's physical abuse, sexual abuse, and all those things that are very, intense. But at the same time, it's like we also have trauma. We also have all these unhealed wounds within us that if we don't heal them, we carry them from relationship to relationship to relationship. And therefore we keep attracting the same dynamics, the same patterns. So for me, it took a lot of guts to say it's also my fault because I also have these toxic behaviors, but I didn't deserve what he did to me, but I forgive myself because I didn't know better. It's coming from that point of empowering yourself to say, I'm taking my power back and I'm going to forgive myself for everything. And this is because I love myself, and it's just releasing all of that. But it does take a lot of guts to be able to take ownership for also our own faults, right?
I think the one thing that really stuck out to me when you were talking then was like, you used the word ownership a lot. And I really love that, because for me, when I was, looking back now on my journey, I had to own, one, what I went through, own the fact that I still stuck around for as long as I did, owned the fact that I didn't leave earlier, obviously, owned the fact that, okay, this is where I'm at, I need to do something about this. And it was just a lot of ownership and accountability and going, okay, I owned the fact that I didn't ask for this abuse, but it happened to me, like all that sort of stuff. So I think ownership is a really good one. And if you, look at this through like forgiveness and healing, like you need to own yourself in this situation. Do you know what I mean? Like you need to take that on board and actually like take ownership of your life now. Do you know what I mean? Because you're no longer looking at the narc to be your other half, or looking at the narc for permission or validation or acceptance or any of this sort of stuff. It's now up to you. Like you are the person who's running the ship, so to speak. So you need to own what you're going through and owning where your life is going to go. So I think it really comes down to making a conscious decision that you're going to do something about it as well. I think that's really important. Like you may not feel like that straight away, but it'll come eventually. Everyone gets to that point where they've got to go, okay, do I want to keep living like this or not? Yeah.
Yes. And it's like when I say, because I talk a lot about empowerment, I talk a lot about taking back your power and all of that. So for me, taking ownership of your life is taking back the control that you thought you lost. You never lost it. You just kind of gave it away, but you never really lost it. You just didn't know how to feel empowered in that toxic relationship because it's really hard, right? So now it's saying, taking ownership is like, oh no, wait, I always had the control. And it's like taking back the control and owning it and stepping into your new life with this fierceness and saying, I am going to do whatever it takes to heal, that's when things start getting so much better, right?
100%. 100%. Well, Mary Miranda, thank you so much for coming on today and like giving all your information and your story and your beliefs and all of this. It's been so wonderful. And it's actually really funny because, so just so everyone knows, we're actually supposed to get on here to talk about her 3 high profile exes, but you know, it's kind of turned into something even better. And in terms of forgiveness, I just want everyone to know that I'm actually running a 6-week program starting in October. It's only a short introductory program of 1 hour a week, but it's all about learning more about this sort of topic and learning to forgive as well and let go. So if that's something you're interested in, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to have you on board. But yeah, apart from that, we'll see you next time. Thanks, Miranda.
Thank you so much.
Find you.
It's okay. You can find me on Instagram. My handle is Mary Miranda Coaching, or in Facebook under Mary Miranda or Mary Miranda Coaching.
Lovely. And she's got this beautiful, just so the ladies are listening, Mary has got like this beautiful like photo shoot that she's done with like this gorgeous red tulle skirt, and she's got roses, and I'm like, oh, because when I saw your Instagram account, I was like, that's what I wanted to do like ages ago. I just haven't got around to it yet. But
I think you should do it.
Yeah, I've got to dig up, like I've got like a tutu skirt somewhere. It's actually black, but I'll have to dig it up and maybe, you know, give it a whirl in front of the camera and see if I get any good shots. But love the fashion aspect. All right, cool. Thanks for listening, ladies, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Thank you for listening, sister friends. For more support and one-on-one coaching to help you through your own recovery journey, or if you're wanting to start a business in this niche, then you can email me at oliviapowellcoaching@gmail.com. That's OLIVIAPOWELL coaching@gmail.com. To connect with other like-minded women who might be in the same stiletto heels as you right now, head to my online virtual space on Facebook by searching Overcoming Narcissistic Relationships with Olivia. Just answer the entry questions and feel free to invite your girlfriends. Or come and hang out with me on YouTube or Instagram, where you will find pretty pictures, uplifting and thought-provoking quotes, and tons of value that you don't want to miss. If you enjoyed this episode or something has resonated with you, then be sure to subscribe to this podcast so that you're informed of every single episode that comes out and so you don't miss a thing. Share the love by passing this on to someone that you know who would benefit from hearing the free content of this podcast. And I would really appreciate it if you would leave a review on iTunes, because your review will help the success of this show so that it has the potential to reach many more women who would benefit from hearing this message too. For more beyond this podcast and places to reach me, please see the show notes for all the links. Until next time, much love, Olivia.